Hi, Rick here from Pedal Preservation. So you've been thumbing through Marketplace, you're just looking for a wee cheap bike just to get you to work and back, and you come across this, free to a good home. So you fire yourself down there, guy says, yeah, it's just been lying in my shed for a while, just needs a little tweak, etc. But nothing major, and you'll be back on the road. So you take it away, you get home, and you discover it needs a little bit more work than what he said. So in this video I'm going to cover picking up a bike on Marketplace and getting it back on the road safely. Now, before we get started, we're going to do what they call an M check. So if you can imagine the bike as like a big M, whoop, 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 and down. Because there's a couple of things. If the bike has a couple of certain issues, it is literally scrap and you can't get started. Or you might just not want to put too much money into an old bike. So the things you need to check before you get started, the first thing I always check is the seat post. So we need to slacken off the seat post, because if you can't adjust your seat, then you're definitely going to be having some problems. But also part of the maintenance will be lubing out the seat post so that it doesn't corrode. Right, so first of all we can see the seat post is moving, so that's a definite good thing, but we'll be coming back to that. But as part of the M check, things you check is you want to check, obviously your wheels are spinning, but we want to check that there's no play in here. So just grabbing the frame and giving the wheel a wee side to side motion that way, and I can feel there's no play there. Other one to check, although it's easier when it's on the ground, is you want to check if there's no play this way. One way you can do that when the bike's on the ground, if you pull the front brake on and then just try and push the bike, and if you hear a clunking noise, then you've definitely got problems here. Although that's not as severe because you can change all the bearings, etc. And then coming, obviously we've gone up to there, we come down to here. The next one we want to do is check the play now. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a tiny little bit of play in the bottom bracket. Not a major problem, that may just need adjusted, or it might need greases. But if there was lots of play, again it might just need adjusted, but it might need rebuilding of the bottom bracket, and if you're not experienced then that could be a problem. So at this point, if you're inexperienced, yeah, you could run it like that, but it's going to be a problem at some point. And then obviously coming up, we've done the seat post, going back down, we've got the rear wheel, so we can do the same thing with the rear wheel. You can feel it actually turns over quite easily, but we just want to check the play sideways, and there's no play there. So that part is all good, because the rest of it, if we have problems with the brakes, etc., which I've had a wee play with them and they feel okay but they're tight. So if I pull on, this is something you can do when you're actually buying the bike. If this is free, I would not have paid money for it, but I can feel that the brakes actually do work, but they're tight, which just means that they are dry. And also the shifters up on the handlebars, that these are moving as well. See the shifter at the back there? It's moving a little bit. It's a bit tight. What happens is the grease in here after a time will dry up, and we can see the front shifter here is actually moving as well. Just may need adjustments, because I think this bike is probably from the mid 80s to late 80s, so it is quite old. So the threshold where it's a write-off is very, very low, because let's face it, if it's going to cost money to put this thing back on the road, you're just as well going out and grabbing another one, or maybe even spending £50 and getting something a lot better. So let's get started. We're going to start breaking it down. There we go. Oh, that was quite tight. I'm slacking that off. On the other side. Oh dear. Right, you don't want to do the nuts out all the way, because the wheel will actually drop out the bottom of the bike. You see, we're already off. So to get the wheel out, ideally you want the gear, you want to spin the wheel and get the gear into the smallest gear here, and it makes it easiest to drop out. Then what we want to do is just pull all this back, and then that allows, oh actually before we do that, I'm forgetting, we need to slacken the brakes off. Sorry, a wee bit out of shot. Should have done that first, and then the wheel will literally drop out. There we go. And then we want to do the same on the front. So the part that I was just out of shot is where the brakes hook in. Now you do get different types of brakes, so this is an older brake system. So in another video I'll cover the other brake system. But what you can do is just pull the calipers in. You see the cable comes slack. Look, see it's popped off already. And then that can just fall to the sides. And then we can take the wheels off. Again, we don't need to take them all the way out, but on these ones there's these little security clips. You need to clear those, and that will allow the wheel to pop off. And that will give us a lot more access into the actual build of the bike. Okay, so the reason is that I've taken the wheels off first. Again, we can check the wheels a bit better now. There's a little bit of roughness there, but to be honest, a little bit of oil in there and they would actually start. Because what happens is the grease that's in there probably when it was made, if they did actually bother to grease it, has probably just dried out a bit. So we can just squirt a little bit of, this is degreaser and lubricant in one. See, instantly smooth as you like, because the oil will mix with the grease and rejuvenate it. And there's no play there, so that's good. But what we're also going to do, wheel is completely flat. So, and also you notice how the valve there is at a bit of an angle. We want to get that straight. So when the tire is totally flat, we can actually just give it a wiggle. And then we can pop this off. Oh, in fact, the cap's actually disintegrated. How old is this bike? In fact, looking at these tires, I think we could have some problems. See the cracks in the walls? Yeah, this thing's going to need some new tires. So I'm not going to pursue this tire anymore. Tire lever into there. It's an old tire, it's dry, so this will come off, no bother at all. Again, see what I'm saying about this point? You may not want to pursue it any further because you're going to have to put tires on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use as many second-hand parts as possible. So we're going to pop out the inner tube. Now the inner tube's still got air in it, so a good chance that that is okay, and it has probably been changed at some point. But the tyre is what we call roached. Wheel though, I mean the wheel is really dirty, as you can see, so I'm going to have to try and give that a wee clean, kind of bring it back to life. But the good news is the hub is fine. Right, let's have a look at the back tyre. So what I'm going to do, just going to check the wall. See, once again, if you can see that, see all the cracks? Yeah, you could probably pump it up. It would do a turn, but it's just not going to be safe. It was shot when it was down there, sorry about that. I'm just new to filming bikes in a garage. Alright, this one's going to need a wee bit more. I need 2 levers for this one. In fact, I'm just going to make sure to get all the air out of the tyre. What I do is I'm just pushing in the valve, because it's not quite come off as easy as the other one. Now I don't know if you see this, but on the back of my things there's hooks, so you can hook them in like that, so they don't ping off and whack you in the face. Oh, there we go. Oh, actually see what I've done, I've actually hooked the inside of the other wall. That's probably what was tight to come off. Didn't realise it was like that. There. And we should just be able to, once again, pull the tyre off. Again, we've got air in the inner tube. Hopefully that's okay, so I'm not putting tubes in as well. But again, yeah, this tire's toast, unfortunately. So that'll be going in the recycling. But now we've got this off, we can have a look at the, so keep looking, I'm just trying to get the best angles for you. Now the important thing is actually the free hub is dirty, but that's engaging. See, spins one way lovely, bites the other. Again, the axle, it's okay, feels a wee bit lumpy, but I'm pretty sure once again it's just literally needing a little bit of a, yep, see, instantly, although it does sound a little bit rough. That does sound a bit ropey. Well, that may be okay. Again, it'll be safe. For a wee runner, it will be okay. But what I might do for the time it takes is we could pop the axle out and just squirt some fresh grease in there. If it fixes it, great. If it doesn't, again, we might need to abandon the bike and scrap it, sadly. And this is what happens. Okay, so before we go any further, I just want to get some oil on these brakes. It's going to make them a little bit easier to work on later on. So I'm just going to squirt some of this on. Just put my hand at the back there just so it doesn't go anywhere. Just want to put it on all the nuts. And I'm going to do the same on the front. There we go, and we just want to get these a bit of a wiggle. Now they're all moving nice and free, so at least we know we're not going to have problems with these. These are just going to need adjusted. What we could have problems with is the actual cables themselves. Okay, now brake cables is next. So I have to say, going by the condition of the bike, I would probably just pull all the brake cables out and replace them. But let's see how good we can get it with the cables that are already in it. So what we want to do is, we've already disconnected the brake, so the cabling here is all slack, but now we need to access it. So this is quite a short one, as you can see, pulls out nice and easy from there, and you can pull the housing out because we've got the slack. And I don't know if you can see in this, I don't think you can, but if I spin that round, I don't see there's like a small slot in the back there, and there's going to be a small slot. There's also a small slot running along the bottom. So to give us the best access, we can actually pull the cable right down, and then it literally unhooks. And this is going to give us the most movement for applying some oil to the brake cable. So I am going to use, because to be honest, any oil will do. In fact, what you could do if you were removing the cable, you could actually just spray oil down the cable, but we don't. So I'm actually just using chain lube. Works perfectly well. That's Pete's chain lube, winter stuff. We can just apply that to the cable, give it a wee work in, then just pull it up, then pull it back through, up and down. Just work all that lube in. In fact, what we can do is just apply a little bit to the rest. So as you see, I've just got that between my fingers. I can just work that in. So even the part that doesn't go into the tube, this is going to lubricate it and stop it from corroding. There you go. So we can hook that back in now. So what you can see, there is actually a hole on the back side of the handle that actually hooks into, which I'm just going to look at myself. And no matter the age of the bike, it'll probably have that. And then that can go back in. Now what I'm going to do is the adjusters for the brakes, I'm going to screw them in all the way. So the more you screw it that way, the tighter that makes the brakes. And that's going to make things a little bit easier for later on. So that's your brake. We can do the back brake. Obviously we disconnected it at the back, we did that earlier. And then we can once again just align the gaps, pull that out, and then that will just pop out. You don't have to take these out, but I just think it gives you a wee bit more to play with. Just pull that up. So we're just going to, in fact, thinking I might kind of feeling if we're not going to replace the cable, I'll be honest with you, the cable actually feels like it's moving actually very well. So you know what, we will lube it from here. I mean, obviously there's a limit to how much is going to get down there. And I'll put a little bit in the other side as well. Normally, on most bikes, if you can see on this, you have the plastic outer, which is the brake we're working on just now. And this outer comes down, but notice the outer goes all the way. That's actually quite uncommon. In most bikes, the outer will stop here, the cable will be on its own, and then it restarts here. So you have this short piece. So you can unhook these outers, and then you can slide them all the way up, and it makes it a lot easier to lube. Unfortunately, we haven't got it in this case. Your only other option would be is, at the end of the brake cable, there's like a small furrow. You could cut that off, pull the cable back through, completely re-lube it, good, but you would have to have a wee furrow to replace it. If this brake cable was tighter, then I would definitely do it, but actually it's not that tight, so I don't think we're going to have to actually do it. So I think just do what we can do, give that a wee bit, and as I say, it's moving really nice. Other thing we can do as well, of course, we can lube these as well. Now these are actually working quite well, but I'm again GT85, but we could use the manual oil and just squirt it in the back like that there. And what it does as well, it just pimps up the plastic, because we can rub all that in later. Do the same on this one, put it in there and back. Doesn't need it, but you know what, why not? Why the hell not? You just rub all that in, and that's going to look way better. Obviously not a good idea on your grips, because your guys are going to slide off. Right, next thing we will do is we're going to do the cabling for the derailleur on the rear. This is all this is manky, this here. In fact, the bike is quite dirty. I could probably have started the whole thing off by taking it out and cleaning it. Now, at the moment, these outers are all locked in place, but an easy way to get them off is if you shift into the smallest gear, so you got your gears down, shift into the smallest one, and then just push the derailleur all the way in, that way, boom, cable comes out. This round here, we can actually disconnect from here, which goes up to here, which we can disconnect from here. But you see, once this is out, this outer can actually pass all the way down, which will allow us, I'm going to get this round enough, we can lube this. See, on there, that lube can now get pushed all the way down here, see, all the way down to there, so that can get worked in. This makes a huge difference. This is an absolute must. So we can oil this cable, there we go, that is all nice. Right, and then round, we can actually pop that back in there. So what we're going to do while we're at it, I'm just going to get some oil into this shifter as well, because I think these were a little bit sticky, but ultimately serviceable. But what we'll do is just gonna, I'm going to give that a quick oil just to see that it's all nice and free, but I think I'm going to have to give that a proper clean, because this is, to be honest, this probably wasn't the best bike for this video, because this bike is roached. Right, so I'm doing this, I don't know if you can see the derailleur at the back, see it moving. So that's all nice and slack, so that's working. I mean, despite this bike is looking pretty disgusting, actually when we've got it all done and put it back together, this bike will work properly. If it's going to be a long-term bike for you, then I would say it's going to be worth doing more to it. But from this video you will see a minimal amount of effort and we can get this bike. This is a free bike, essentially. This is the bike you get on Marketplace when someone says, please just come down and take it away. So we're going to do the same with the back one. Now with this one, to slacken off the cable so we can pop it out, we need the derailleur as much this way as possible. So what we can do is, at the moment we have the shifter in the, where it's pulled the gear down the way, okay? Yep, that's all the way there. And then if we pull that up, what it'll do, it'll take all the tension, so that's the cable, all the tension out, and then we can just pull that one out as well. And then boom, see, down it comes. So same again, yeah, there's a wee bit of rust on that, so again, doesn't really need to, but I wish I had a bit of steel wool, because you would not believe how much that comes up. Well, hindsight as well, to be honest with you, I wish I'd just literally taken this bike out and properly cleaned it, you know, like foams, because you'll see from those snapshots at the start, this is pretty manky, but you know what, it's a charity case. Again, put oil on the cable. Fine, this is nothing fancy, and this is literally chain lube I'm using, so you could be using 3-in-1 oil, which you use quite a lot. That would work absolutely fine. No reason to go out and buy any bike specific stuff, because I can tell you now it's nonsense. That goes into there like that. So again, we'll need to pull that up, and then we can put this back in. So I probably haven't explained to how these cables pop out. So on this one here, it looks like that is solid, but there's not. It was like the brakes, there's actually a slot in the back, so when this is slack, this can pull out and then the cable will fall out the slot. You can do that. So we've done that. Let's, because I don't know if I rammed some oil in here or not. Again, this could be anything. This could be WD-40. I mean, I'll be honest, there's probably other things better than WD-40, but because WD-40 is more of a water displacer rather than, sorry, I'm just gonna hold so the derailleur hanger part can actually move all the way up and down, just so we can slacken this off. Oh, there we go. Now, unlike modern bikes, where this one you can hear it going, so I'm just getting in shot, you hear it clicking for the different gears, but on the older bikes there's no clicking. I have to say, I think this is better, because if this gear here, the derailleur, doesn't quite get into the correct 1, 2, 3 position, you're not left trying to adjust it, because you can micro adjust it from here. So you're hearing a bit of ticking coming from here, you just go back, job done. So actually, I think these are really good. These, I mean, in the day, this much nuts stuff here. Right, I'm just going to pop a little bit of oil on the derailleur itself. Again, anything will do. Just work it in. There's a lot of tension in this, but it'll work. There we go. Blah 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 blah. What I'm going to do is, actually, I'm going to check to see if the chain is worn. Unless it's worn really badly. So here's your chain checking tool. You got a hook there and the slopey part here. The way it works is that the hook goes in to part of the chain and that falls in there. And the idea being is it shouldn't do that. See, it's falling to the bottom. I will say, yeah, so this is a worn chain. So if I pull on this, well, I mean, yeah, I would say it's probably worn. Other thing it's worth doing is doing it in a couple of different places. But I'm going to be honest with you, yeah, it probably needs a chain. I would say that it's probably just gone. So again, it comes down to, is the bike worth it? I mean, for the sake of a chain, you could probably buy, I don't know what this is, an 8-speed in the back. You buy a chain for like £8. So you probably, if you're in this deep and it's need nothing else, this would definitely be worth doing. But you know what? We're not going to do that right now. We're getting this bike running and seeing, is a free bike really free? Because that's essentially it. Someone says, oh, the bike is free, but is it free? Because if you've got to spend like another £50 on it, then it wasn't free, and then let's face it, at that point you might be better buying something else. But I'll be honest, sometimes maybe you are better getting it free, doing some work, and you know, like if you drop £50 on this bike and did all the work yourself, I'm not saying it's a new bike, but a lot of the rotating components will now be fixed. So, you know, hey, it's even got a kickstand on it, and that's unusual. Right, anyway, what I'm going to do actually, because I should have done this at the start, I'm going to give this thing a clean. So all I will be using, any kind of detergent will do. I'm going to use this stuff. It's muck off bike cleaner, 1 to 4 I think, just in a pump sprayer. Woo! Right, we're kind of almost at the reassembly stage, but obviously issue is, well, 2 issues. That I'm sure I've got some spare pedals about that we could use if we can get these ones out. So let's see if we can get that off. By the way, if you think you need a fancy toolkit, you do not. Okay, some of my tools are a bit fancy. I use a lot of feedback sport tools. They are expensive, but I also have if you've heard of Bike Hut, which is if you're in the UK, it's a Halfords brand, but they do tools. You buy the whole set for 30 quid. Comes in a little plastic box. I've got the box lying somewhere because I've got the tools in another box. But Bike Hut, you buy the whole thing for 30 quid. Honest to God, it's got everything. Look, there's a chain tool for a cassette. You've got a million things on here, so it actually does more than that. Yeah, this is just a bit more rounded. And I have to say, I bought this big feedback sports toolkit. It cost me £250, and there's stuff on it that I don't have, you know. And then I'm filling in by the Halfords box, the Bike Hut stuff. So there you go. So even if you are thinking going places, honest God, for 30 quid, just buy the damn thing. Because you're going to have things that even that fancy toolkit, which is supposed to be a field toolkit, like it's a pro mechanic field toolkit, and it does work well, but I've definitely come up short and then going to my Halford stuff. So the problem is with this pedal, and get that. Okay, peeps. So I managed to find a couple of pedals off a bike. Believe it or not, they're like the old bear trap pedals. Believe it or not, these came on an e-bike that cost over £3 and that's the pedals you got with it. Unbelievable. But you know what, for purposes this will do. Just going to give them, because they feel a wee bit dry, don't think we can, no, they're all sealed, so I can't put them in the back, but you put a little bit of oil in the front there. Now obviously pedals are handed. There's a little bit of corrosion on there, nothing severe, but what we will do is we're gonna put a little bit of a tad of grease in there, just so because I'll be honest with you, hell knows, might take this pedal off. I'm just using, you know, copperies, a little bit of that, and then we need to figure out, because the pedals will be handed, you soon find out. You put it in, turn it, will it go in? If not, you're going in the wrong way. Feels like I'm going in the wrong way. Let's try the other one. Yep, see, that's now screwing in. You don't have to go beast mode because the pedals will actually tighten themselves up. So I'll need to do the other one for the movie. Boom. This pedal's actually okay, but we want it to match. Oh, I say it's okay, it's actually seizing up. Just a little bit of copperies in. Awesome, okay, so obviously, as I just said, I repacked the axle with some new grease, given the freewheel hub a bit of an oil as well. So this is ready to go. I've also just given the rim a nice clean as well, because it was, to be honest, it was just a bit dirty. So, right, we've got two tyres. One's got a little bit better tread than the other one. They're a little bit dirty, but we can always clean them afterwards. So these are the same size. They are 26s by 2.10. So obviously we'll just take the valve off because we need to poke that through. And then we can just pop the inner tube out. We'll come back to that. And then we can get this in. Now remember, now this particular tyre is not directional, but what you're looking for normally with tyres is these, you'll have some sort of V, so the V goes in the direction that the tyre is going to be rotating. But as you can see on this one, absolutely nothing, so it doesn't matter. That's on. Right, so that's the tyre in place, and then we can get the tube in. Just to make life easier, if you just put a little bit of air in the tube, this makes it a little bit easier to manoeuvre in. So we want to get the valve into the wheel. And there she goes. Go, inner tube in, tyre levers, reliever, should get round in a oneer. Oh, right, my glove. Right, so that's one down. Here we go, here's the other tyre. Once again, there's no direction. Tread pattern slightly different, but we're not going to worry about that. So, take the inner tube out. Okay, once again, I actually give this wheel a wee clean as well, because they were so dirty. I mean, that would not affect the performance of it, but for the purposes of where the bike will be going at some point, I've given it a clean. Right, so with that all installed, I'm going to get the inner tube now. See the valve going into the valve along the wheel. There we go. Just make sure the valve is coming out straight down. Right, now we can get this tyre on. Oh, this one's definitely going to be, I don't know why, it's going to be a little bit tougher. What it is there's a little bit more air in this tube than I would like, so just let it all out, because what it's doing, it's stopping the bead of the tyre sitting in the middle, which makes the diameter of the tyre slightly smaller, which then makes it harder. So there you go, and that's the tyre completely on now, and this is done, ready for air. Right, let's get some air into these tyres. So one thing it's doing, if there's no air in the tyre, push in, because what happens when you try and put the tyre thing on, so it pushes the valve in. So just put your hand behind it, and then you open it up, and then that should lock it into place enough. Now, this tyre goes up to between 40 and 65, so we'll probably put 50-60 into it. We'll do 55. There we go. And valve. And obviously we'll do the same with the other one. go, 55. There we go. Oh, my short of one valve. No matter, I'm sure I've got a spare somewhere. Okay, now let's get the wheels back on the wagon. So for slotting back in, kind of the reverse of what I said, for taking it off, just pull the derailleur all the way back out. That way you can hook the cassette inside the chain. Just keep that pulled back. And we just slot all that back in there. Now just having this sudden thought that this tyre is actually bigger than the original one. I'm sure I checked. Right guys, so here is the thing. These tyres are actually not the same size. These are 26 by 2.1. The ones that came off are 26 by 1.95. I did not think they would make enough difference, but they're just big enough because it's got mud guards hitting the mud guards. So what I'm going to do is I've got another bike that I'll be doing another video on, which does have the 1.95 tyres on it and doesn't have mud guards. So I'm going to take the tyres off of it and put them on here. So rather than filming the whole thing again, because it'll be exactly the same, I'll just do it and then we'll come back in a mo. Hey peeps, another day, and I've got the tyres swapped over from the other bike onto this bike so we can get things moving forward. So literally back to where we are, slipping the wheel on. So pull the derailleur back, hook it on the smallest gear, and fingers crossed this is going to slide up nice and snug. Oh, I think we are going to have to adjust the mud guards. So I think what it is from the original tyres, I think that this tread being a little bit more aggressive is pushing it into the mud guard. But you know what, that's not the end of the world. The problem is if I go in here, so the tyre is rubbing round here, so we need to lift the whole thing up, but the mount is already as high as it will go. But if I bring the mudguard forward, then I think that's going to give us the extra ground clearance that we need. But what I've got to do is I've got to take this out and then move it up there. So I'm just going to pause you for a sec. Okay peeps, well that was a wee bit of a battle. So what I ended up having to do, this bracket here is now at the back because I had to get this whole mudguard forward to give me the clearance. I think this mudguard's actually meant for a bigger bikes, possibly, I don't know, but that is what I've done, and actually I think it's going to probably work a bit better. As you can see, I've now got the rear wheel on now and that's sounding great. Okay, now let's get the front wheel on. That's what I'm going to do. Just going to give me a bit more room. Just going to pull that up. Clean it up. Now, with the front wheel, we just need to watch, because this can go on both ways, that we get our rotation right. There was an arrow on the sidewall telling me the rotation. Oh, there it is there. So rotation saying forward, so tyre goes that way. So we want to put it on, and you see you've got like the little, I don't know if you can see it, but there's these little lawyer lips, they call them. So they just hook into small holes on the inside of the wheel. When you're looking at the wheel, you can see they there, you want to make sure you've got an even gap on both sides there. So as I said before, you can get it kind of up tight, and then you just put your thumbs in. And then, okay, so now that we've got the wheel clicked in, we can get all our brakes reconnected. Now, this cable here is a little bit roached up, as you can see we've got a lot, so I'm going to be replacing this, but it is still functional. So in respect to the video, we're going to leave it on just now. This is how the brakes are. Oh, right, they're quite solid. So what we're going to need is we're going to need a spanner, because we're going to need to slacken these off, because they're solid, no playing them at all. So we're going to be using 10mm. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold on to the cable just so the whole thing doesn't kind of shoot off, because all we want to do is slacken it off enough just to let a bit slip out. There we go. Clean that back up. we got. There we go. Now, I have to say, I did notice when I was looking at these pads, they've obviously not originally been adjusted right. So if I take these off, I don't know if you can see this here, but this is all just, it's all contoured where the bottom of the pad was obviously getting around the edge of the wheel rim. So what I'm going to do, so again, what I will do, I'll look back round, I'm going to put new brake blocks on it. But what you could do to revive these, no problem at all, just get yourself a file and you can actually just easily re-profile them. Get in there. There's a few grooves. I don't think we're going to get it out completely because there's a few grooves on there, but we're going to get rid of that lip so I can realign the brake block. Oops. Clever. It doesn't look too bad. And then what we will do is, I'm just gonna realign, because I don't know if you can see that there now, it's just hitting the wheel but it's too far down. So what we can do is we can move that back up again, again with the 10mm. Just slacken this nut off at the back. Ooh. Slack for a while. That'll give us some slack. What we can do is push the block onto the wheel rim so it's where it needs to be, and it'll recontour itself. That's what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the other side. In fact, what we will do is we'll hook all this back up. Then we'll pull the brakes on, and then the brakes will hold the block where it needs to be. Well, that was easier said than done. I think what's happening, of course, we're pushing the brake block up the shaft. I get a wee bit of tension on this. Wrong side maybe? No, the right side. Just need to put a wee bit of tension back into it because it's slopping all over the place. It. Sorry if my arm's in the way, it's just getting into this nut. Probably where you want a ring spanner. Right, that's pretty much hitting spot on. Yeah, other side is the same. So give that a wee sand and file. Right. This is almost on target, but not quite. These cantilever brakes aren't overly the easiest compared to the more modern V brakes, but can get them to work. Straighten that up, tighten, there we go. maybe move that one in on that shaft, move it back a wee bit. That back into place. There we go. Right, let's hook all this back on. Well, these threads are certainly, what we'll do is I'll trim those threads off. Cutters. As I say, this will all get changed. Yeah, because it's all a bit nasty. Where are we? Right, so we've got a bit of travel. It's working, but we've got too much travel. So what we will do, so we can either adjust it up here by unscrewing the adjuster, but I prefer, because we're going to need a bit of a change, I think we're going to do it down here. And you make small changes up at the top. This takes a lot of slackening off. Oh. So we'll take it up almost all the way. Let it slide out slightly. Where are we now? There we go. Okay. There we go, front done. Okay, so the back brakes, we've got them all connected, and I've basically just duplicated what we did on the front, but done them on the back, and they're all working perfect now. So really all that's left now to do is we're going to get the rear derailleur. So we have the cable, the rear derailleur cable, coming through here and comes up under the derailleur, and you've got a small nut here that's then going to, but is there a hole? No, it's just like it's like a washer with a lip on it. It has to go through there. You can get that through. Thread in the needle. There we go. It comes out the bottom there, and then we just need to tighten up the nut. Now what I've done is I've put the shifter up at the front. I've done that, put that into the, so it pushes it into the hardest gear. So this is under the least slack. And then we can start checking to see if, so we've got first gear, up she goes, second gear, perfect, third, and the top gear. So actually, this is not going to require any kind of fine tuning. It's going up and down, no problem at all. There's a wee delay in it going up, so we could, there's an adjuster, there is an adjuster at this end, so you can unscrew that just a little bit, just put a wee bit of tension in it so it jumps a bit quicker. There we go. Boom. There we go. Right, that is pretty much it. So what I'm going to do now is just check the front derailleur. This might be all ready to go. Now the front one's not indexed, so you can actually just fine tune it. Oh, actually, we might need to tune something. So that's on the biggest one. Middle, bottom. But it's kind of jammed as it went into the top one though. Although if you're pedalling it doesn't really do it, so I think we're probably okay. Right. Nice one. I think we're kind of looking like we're done here. So that's the free bike finish. So what do we think as a whole? Was a free bike really a free bike? Possibly in this case, I've had to do a wee bit more than I thought I was going to have to do. Normally a little bit of lubing up and we can actually get it to go. But I suppose it does serve a purpose of showing that when you get a bike on Marketplace, if it's kind of been sitting for a while, you're going to have to do a bit more. Now in the cases of this one, although we had to do a bit more, a lot of it was just time or possibly a bit more experience that you might not have. So that could maybe run into issues. But to break the cost down, so if the bike was free, we had when I say two new tires, two good second-hand tires. I estimate it probably would have been about £10. Things that I definitely would fit, obviously we want to get the brake blocks done, there's probably like another £10, so you're about £20, but that does cover your brakes. We didn't change the cables, but definitely putting new cables on the bike would be a good idea. Again, not overly expensive, like another £5 for new cables. And then apart from that, it was really just me and a bit of extra time. So what did I do? I had to obviously adjust the bottom crank, repack that with grease. The headset was a bit rumbly, so I stripped that and packed that with grease. I did both the wheel hubs as well, packed with grease. Again, I haven't replaced anything. The rest of it, like the shifters, the brakes, etc., that was all just time. Oh yes, and of course, remember the pedals. I did have a spare set of pedals, so I put them on, but again, if you had to buy them, about £10. Other than that, the bike is original and it is actually a nice bike. So if you're using this as a commuter bike, it's already got the mud guards on. It's got quite an upright stance. I wouldn't say it's a hybrid bike because it's probably more of a 80s mountain bike, but it would do a good turn. And you've got like the tray on the back as well, which is quite a unique feature. So overall, so the bike was free. You've probably spent maybe £30 on it. But you've got a very good solid bike that will serve you for many years to come, and if you look after it, then you shouldn't need to be replacing bearings and things like that. So overall, yeah, Marketplace, can it be a good place to get bikes? Yes it is. If you do need a bit of work and you don't want to do it, then you may have to get it serviced. A lot of local bike shops might not want to service such an old bike because it probably would be prohibitively expensive, but it's worth checking out your local bike charities, bike co-ops, bike libraries, etc. A lot of times they will do servicing for a much reduced cost, or they will actually let you use their tools and equipment to do the servicing yourself, so it's not a bad thing to get into. So thanks very much for that. Hopefully I'll roll some more videos out and maybe my next video. In fact, I do have another bike that's sitting down here as a frame. I'll do that one next. That definitely shouldn't need more work, so I'm hoping that will be more of a, you get a bike off a Marketplace, it's just a little bit tired and all it requires is a little bit of knowledge, and you can get that bike back on the road for free. Thank you very much. Bye.